Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the MFW podcast. Whether you are watching on YouTube or you are listening on Spotify for the newest installment of the weekly pod. And finally, all four of us are back together again. I'm Freddie Humphrey Wakefield. I am joined by Jack Wright, Will Grant, and Henry Miller. Boys, before we dive into the usual nonsense and some Norwich talk, how have the three of you been personally? What's been going on with all of your lives?
Yeah, I've been really good. Thank you. It was a bit sweet with Norwich, really, wasn't it? Getting the late goal that we thought would win it, and then the killer blow right at the end. But in terms of my personal life, I'm now a regular presenter on Future Radio. So if you fancy listening to me every Thursday, 2 till 4 on Norwich Today, we'll have news, views, and tunes from the local area. Bit of local music, bit of music we all know and love as well. So yeah, if you fancy it, tune into that every 2 till 4 every Thursday.
Henry, mate, I'm absolutely gassed for you there. My week's been good, but my life did peak, I think, at the 95th minute yesterday. I might have been singing "But the Bus" to Wembley and all those great chants, and then I get humbled about 30 seconds later. So quite a conflicting weekend, to be honest with you, but overall I'm good. Jack?
Yeah, I've had a busy week. The reason why I wasn't in the last podcast was that I got a cat. My wife didn't let me name her Borja, which is a real shame. But whenever she gets excited and she starts purring, she sort of spits everywhere, which is kind of cute and kind of disgusting. But what you can say is that she's a good dribbler. So, maybe with our injury crisis, maybe we could do with her up front. I really have been a fan of cats, especially, fat cats. The fatter, the better.
Well, it's funny you mention cats there and precisely cats being fat. Now, for our YouTube watchers, just feast your eyes on a little bit of this.
No need to ask, Jesus.
Jack hasn't got to say, please can you sponsor the MFW channel anymore? As you may even see from our nice little banner down here, or if you're confused as to why you've just heard Sade's dulcet tones over your Spotify account, this podcast is now proudly brought to you in association with the Fat Cat and Canary pub. Head on down to the Fat Cat and Canary on Thorpe Road, and you can choose from a wide selection of ales from all around the world to quench your thirst. You can also order a bite to eat from their Canary kitchen, and you can take in some of the pre-match made atmosphere. Boys, we've got a sponsor.
Book the bus.
Exactly. Book it. Book the bus. Get me there.
We've finally gone and done it. We've finally gone and done it.
Yeah.
And I have to say, initially we had some very promising talks with BK8, but it didn't work out in the end, which is but the Fat Cat and Canary is just as good. And again, my calls have been answered. We've got our beloved sponsor. But if someone else would like to sponsor the My Football Writer podcast as well, I'm sure we can have 2 or 3 or 10. We need to buy some more Wi-Fi for Will. It is imperative.
Yeah, no, it is. But hopefully we can use our newfound fundage to help Will and countless people throughout the rural parts of Norfolk to improve their Wi-Fi. Hopefully they can stretch out to Essex as well with Jack's dodgy Wi-Fi at times. But there you have it. That's our real big announcement for the week. And a huge thank you to the Fat Cat and Canary for being willing to sponsor this nonsense every single week. Maybe they'll watch this episode and see what we talk about and who knows what will happen. Let's keep our fingers crossed for now. But we'll go back to the sensible stuff. We'll go back to that Norwich game at the weekend against Blackburn Rovers. A huge game, realistically. 4 points separated Norwich and Blackburn, who were sixth at the time. Norwich, it looked like that was going to be a 1 point gap in the 90th minute through Antti Crnac. It's only his 6th goal of the season, but it looked to be the biggest he may score all season, only for Andreas Weimann to equalise 96th minute for the 10 men of Blackburn. It's a really thrilling end. 85th minute, there's a red card. Norwich looked like they win it 5 minutes later. 6 minutes after that, they're pegged back and 3 points turns to 1. Many fans probably thought that was going to be a heroic away win, those 900 who travelled, fair play to them. But that was very gutting to concede late on, really, wasn't it? And just a huge sucker punch, especially against 10 men.
Yeah, you're right. And, no matter how Norwich City play or have played, if you get into the 95th minute, 1-0 up, you expect to win the game. And that's what Norwich City should have done. And I think Johannes Hotterup said it in his post-match interview that Norwich displayed a really smart performance for 89 minutes. And then when they went ahead, it was almost like they just lapsed concentration and players became a bit more selfish. And it was that taking our eye off the ball that ultimately cost us in the dying seconds when Andreas Weimann netted from a header. But it is bitterly disappointing. But, look, Norwich is still within touch and distance of the playoffs, and it's not over yet. And hopefully Norwich can really kick on against Oxford this week. Sorry.
Yeah, it was kind of a crazy game in my opinion. I actually thought Norwich's best spells probably were the start of the first half and also the start of the second half as well. So very, very good start. But I just felt like Blackburn actually probably grew into the game a bit more as each half went on, really. And we just couldn't really seem to find that momentum throughout the whole 90 minutes, really. So that was quite a big of a shame, really, because I thought overall, especially in deep areas, I thought we really, really started the game nicely and we tried to show our intent and our style of play very, very elegantly. I think that big chance which Smiley had probably was kind of a big moment as well for us, really. I think he's got to score that chance, and I think maybe the game could have worked to be a very, very different one for us, and hopefully we'd have got the 3 points. But overall, I thought, looking at the stats as well, I think Blackburn just edged the XG stats and the stats like that as well. So maybe a point was a fair result, but overall, I think if Norwich were to take a point against Blackburn, probably it's quite a decent point. I think you can never take for granted a point away from home in this league, but then again, looking at Norwich's situation, especially now probably 10 games left into the season as well, you kind of got to be beating those sides who are in and around you because I think those games kind of become 6 pointers, if you will, as well. So a very, very annoying result in the end. I think there was some good moments overall, but I just felt maybe everyone's performance probably in the final third was a bit lackluster. I think we had good moments, but I thought the likes of Borja Sainz and probably even Anthony Crnac as well, although he's got an absolutely lovely goal, I did think overall his performance was quite subpar. But I think it's definitely important when you're not playing to your full potential, especially in the final third. And I think it's really important to try and get a good point. That's what Norwich done. But I think if you look at our next two games at home, and they're going to be very, very difficult challenges because we've seen, although Oxford and Sheffield Wednesday probably aren't two fierce tests in terms of opposition and quality, they're two tests which Norwich probably haven't played well against this season in terms of trying to break down quite a low block. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Norwich kind of try and change their fortunes doing so. But I think definitely it was a decent performance, but I just still generally think that our final third play was a bit subpar at times. And I think if that was maybe improved, we could have got 3 vital points.
I think Will summarised it very well there. Just in terms of what the expectations were pre-match. Obviously, no Kenny in midfield, as we've alluded to before, is always going to put us on the back foot away from home, where we are typically awful. And yeah, I completely the same as Will. In the 95th minute, I was sat there thinking, oh my God, we're going to do it. Like, we're going to grind out another 1-0 away win, this is it. You know, the train is moving forwards, and then the train hit a red signal, and then, you know, whether we're going to be in a bus replacement for the rest of the season, who knows? But yeah, no, I think it was very sort of lax in attack as well. I don't really think Sargent had a fantastic game. I think just very sloppy on the ball. And I don't think either team really dominated it. It obviously felt pretty cagey. And pre-match, the narrative was always going to be Valerian Ismail's first home game, and how is he going to steady the Blackburn ship and keep them in that playoff race. Obviously, in the end, for him to get a dramatic late equaliser, that fits that narrative. Norwich arriving was just the side story of it. And I think what it underlines is our performances against those top teams. I can't really remember many, apart from Coventry, who are now, I think, 5th. I can't remember many results against those sort of bigger teams chasing the playoffs. It's obviously, like Will said, against the kind of lesser teams, they'll be more likely to put in a low block and be very difficult to break down. But then it doesn't seem like we can turn up against teams that, that may be, above in the table to us. Obviously, we did have one against Stoke, drew against Blackburn. So, what's going to happen against Oxford is going to be another loss. So that's 12 wins, 12 draws, 12 losses. That's the way it's going to work.
It may do. It might do. By the law of averages and Norwich's average season, then maybe. But no, the pair of you sort of touched there on the sort of Norwich's individuals and sort of their form away from home as compared to at home. But it's another game where Borja Sainz has gone without a goal. He hasn't scored since November, which still makes it amazing that he is the league's top scorer. But as mentioned, Crnac pops up, gets his 6th goal of the season at a late time in the game, only for it to not really matter. But Norwich away from home in this calendar year, since 2025 began, it's 4 goals in 6 away games. Compared to their home matches, they've scored 11 in 5, which at this point just makes the away form even more baffling. They still, for whatever reason, cannot seem to get 3 points away from home, even if the opposition can have 10 men and Norwich score in the last minute of regular time. They still cannot seem to do it. So is there any explanation for why Norwich cannot seem to just grind it out and get all 3 points away from home? Or is it just, do you just sort of sit back and if you don't cry at it, all you can do is laugh?
It is bizarre because I think that because they're on the road, they are more inclined to be a little bit cautious. Like at home, I think a lot of Norwich fans want us to play the Norwich way. And that is just play good attacking football, which inevitably comes with risk. And say if Norwich lost 4-3 at home, given the circumstances, fans might be happy that Norwich have given it their all, especially if they go into a game as underdogs, say, for example. Whereas away from home, because you haven't got your home comforts around you, I think a lot of fans and players are more inclined to go to places like Blackburn and are happy to play for a point. Whereas if that was at Carrow Road, maybe we would have scored more than 1 goal because, they're not as reserved. And even if it looks destined for a draw, they're going to do all they can to chuck men forward to try and get those 3 points. So, it's not something that's plagued this Norwich, just this Norwich City side. We've had it before. I think a few years ago. Well, I say a few years ago, probably around 7 or 8 years ago now, in the Championship under Alex Neil and our good friend Alan Irvine. We finished 8th that season, and I think it was only Newcastle who went on to win the league, had a better home record than us. But away from home, we were abysmal, and that's why we didn't get into the playoffs. So, it's something that Norwich have historically struggled with, so to speak. But maybe it's just that just the fact that maybe more pressure's on them when they're away from home. That's all what I can put it down to, because the change is pretty stark, and it shouldn't really be like that, to be honest.
I think although the stats have been quite gloomy actually in terms of overall in obviously this calendar year, I think the last 3 performances away against Hull, Blackburn, and Watford, I think generally they've been quite good, to be honest. I think one point which I've always kind of like tried to portray since doing this podcast, especially under Torp's reign, is it feels like there's such a big emphasis on control of the game and trying to work absolutely fantastic chances and gilt-edged chances. It just feels like at times we just wanted to play maybe that extra path. We're just trying to literally like overwork it at times. And I just think when you've got such a young squad, it feels like what they kind of want is clarity. And I think you're getting players who are doing what Top wants them to do in terms of wanting to play out from the back, trying to establish control. But it just feels like at times when between that final third and that middle third, it still feels like either Norwich get out due to either Signs doing some sort of brilliant run past 2 players or Sudden just like batting his way for opponents. It just feels like at times that there isn't a coherent and quite effective ploy for how Norwich actually create chances away from home. I think they create probably during the last 2 games against Hull, etc., we're probably creating maybe 4 or 5 chances across the whole game. I just think maybe we've got to try and take the next step of going from controlling the game to trying to create more chances in the game. And I think that's probably where probably our maybe downfall's probably been, because I feel like at home we do it very, very well. It feels like we're kind of always creating about 20 chances a game, but away from home it just feels like maybe at times, I think Henry even said it, we're a bit too cautious and we don't. And it feels like Top wants us to try and be a bit more conservative and maybe not open up as much. And although it has its risks, I think the great teams in this league show a bit of risk and try and be that very, very aggressive and front-footed side. I just feel like at times there's a bit too over-reliance of being a bit too conservative and a bit too controlled in a way. And I think maybe at times you've got to show that bit of courage to try and maybe beat a man, try to go through 2 players or try to win a free kick in an advanced area. I just think the team needs to probably develop a little bit more in that sense.
Yeah, I don't make no sense that way for but I don't rightly know why we're so good in Norfolk. We go over the waves here and we lose our minds. That's confusing, that is. And it doesn't really... It's not that Carrow Road is like a buzzing home atmosphere that is driving the players forward and is geeing them up. I mean, obviously, from my time in the Barclay, that was a fantastic atmosphere, much better than the Wensum corner. But yeah, it's not like it's a cauldron of noise that's completely, lifting all the players all of the time. And it's not like when they went to Ewood Park that it was the opposite, a cauldron of noise that was kind of against them. You're talking about a 31,000 seater stadium where I think the attendance on Saturday was 14,000. That's pretty poor. It's a shame, but obviously credit to the 900 that made it up to whichever bit of Lancashire is it East Lancashire or West Lancashire? I don't care, it's up north. But yeah, I mean, I can't make head or tail of it. I think what's reflective of home and away is we seem to never be able to concede chances and get away with it. It seems like every time we make even the slightest mistake, we're completely cut open. Obviously, for Weiman's winner, he was onside. I think there was a lot of controversy as to whether he was off or on. It was tight and level, but I think Lungi was just playing him on. But again, once he then got the ball, no one went with him. He completely I think we tried to play the offside trap and then just, created a clear chance. Against Stoke as well, Shane Duffy puts one ball right into the middle. And there's quite a lot for the Stoke players to do. Yet all of a sudden, as soon as that ball was given away, the entirety of Carrow Road just went, ugh, because we all knew what was going to happen. And again, how many shots on target did Blackburn Rovers have? Just the one. Just the one shot on goal. So yeah, I mean, Angus Gunn, in terms of your saving statistics, it's not very good. And what a lot of fans pointed out, and Henry mentioned it, that Torrop was furious. He was so angry, and you kind of love to see it. And I think it is it's reflective of what he's trying to build. It's reflective of what he wants, and perhaps just at the moment, he just doesn't have the players available exactly that he wants, or he's just having to play with whatever he's got. You can see what he's trying to do, especially at the start of the second half. There was a moment where we completely pinned Blackburn into their box, and we were kind of doing almost like a Man City-esque kind of intricate little triangular passes here, there. But of course, we don't have like Foden or Haaland or anything. So of course, it just went astray. So I was very impressed by that that style and that kind of approach. But again, it just I don't know. Maybe we need to bring more things from Norfolk. Maybe get some sand from the beach at Hunstanton, or get like one of the snails from Yarmouth and put it in the dressing room, or like I don't know, like get the cockerel that's on top of the cathedral and like bring that with you as a good luck charm. Did you know the cockerel on top of Norwich Cathedral is the size of a donkey? There's a fun pub quiz question for you there. Henry, you can mention that on future radio if you like. That's a fun little nugget of Norfolk wisdom for you, boy.
Wow. The more you know.
How do we do this every week? Every week. How do we bring this in? How on earth have we gone from talking about Blackburn? To be fair, actually, they do interlink with the Venki sponsorship. So maybe it's fair enough, but how do we do this? How have we gone from talking about a professional game of football in the second tier to a metal cockerel being the same size as a donkey? How do we do it?
And how much time do you have, Jack?
I heard that stat somewhere and I liked it, and it's one of those that's stuck in my brain. Honestly, Google it.
No, please.
That is a good question, though, and it should make a pub quiz. It should even make the Future Radio pub quiz, which takes place at the Fat Cat and Canaries every Wednesday. So make sure you get down there for 8:00 for the Future Radio pub quiz on Wednesdays.
It all interlinks. Somehow we do it. I don't know how, but we do it. But anyway, we'll get back on track. Jack, you said there about Norwich, especially Torrop, he has to use pretty much what he's got. So in terms of bad luck, not just Norwich conceding a late equaliser, but looks like there's some more injuries. Lewis Dobbin was forced off. Looks like he may have done his hamstring. There was no sign of Lucian Mahovo at the weekend after he's come into the team and been very impressive. So really, for all the faults that Norwich have had this season and that they may actually continue to have, those injuries, if anything, feels like they've hampered Norwich more than anything else this season, really, and that not necessarily architects of their own downfall, but with all those injuries, Norwich have barely had their best 11 out this season. So it really does feel like that they have to use what they've got because there's nothing else.
Yeah, and I feel like last season was an injury blow for Norwich, whereas this season we're definitely in crisis territory when we talk about our injuries. And like you said there, we've struggled to field our strongest 11 this season because of all the injuries and because of all the suspensions. And I think it was that run of form towards the end of last season where most, if not all, of our key players were fit that got us into the top 6. And it doesn't look like, in terms of our injury list, that we'll be that lucky this season. So we do need to find ways of getting points with players who probably wouldn't make the starting 11 if everyone was fit. That's why it was so good to see someone like Ante Cianats on the score sheet, but so disappointing chucking away late leads against both Derby and now Blackburn, because they're games when you're going through a crisis or you're going through a tough period where you need to get the 3 points. And not because they're poor teams. Blackburn are in the top 6, but because you're leading at such a late point in the game. And the fact that we've taken 2 points from those games is very poor, you know, whether we've got injury problems or not. So I think come the end of the season, they could be exceptionally damaging results for Norwich. And yeah, I just hope that we've still got enough to propel us into the playoffs, really. But I don't know. I think maybe Johannes Hoftorp, we know he loves to train hard. Is it an issue? Is it taking its toll on the players? I don't know, but I do feel for Lewis Dobbin as well, because for what it's worth, I think he's had a very good loan spell so far, and it looked quite bad when he had to go off. He was in tears. So when you see something like that, especially without any contact whatsoever, you do feel the worst. And I'll be shocked if Lewis Dobbin plays in a Norwich City shirt again, to be honest. You know, it did look that bad. So yeah, massively feel for him. Hope he gets better soon. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it's like this, but hopefully Norwich can get the points they need in a much more difficult situation than last season.
Yeah, I think if you look back at Norwich over the last 4 seasons, I think during the Premier League season, we had an injury crisis towards Christmas, and we played like that. I don't know if any of you remember, but I think we played that game against Villa and Crystal Palace at home in the at home in the Premier League. I think we had likes of Zolis, Blaheta, Ida as a front three, and then I think the Villa game, when obviously I think that was against Steven Gerrard's team, and we played like I think it was Sam Byron in midfield, and I think. Then you go back to the season after that, and I think towards the end of that campaign, we had the likes of Sam McCann playing left back, and then I think the squad towards back end of that of Vander's first season, it was so young and inexperienced. That was due to injuries. And you look back to the next campaign after that last season, and it was during the time we actually played Blackburn, wasn't it? I think at home, I think we had, probably towards Halloween time, maybe I want to say, we had so many players injured, and now again this year we've had players injured as well for quite a long spell of time. So. It feels like we've had a lot of injuries now over the last 5 years, and there just seems to be a constant crisis. And I know, obviously, some of these injuries are probably unfortunate, right? And they're probably contact injuries. And obviously, also Henry also said that top plays quite a physical and quite a demanding style of play. Absolutely fair, but it just feels like the last 5 years now, we just always seem to have an injury crisis, and it's massively important as well, because it feels like when Norwich now, we're competing against 3 sides every year who have got fantastic budgets in terms of parachute payments. Look at the likes of Burnley. Obviously, Luton have obviously fell miserably this year, but obviously Sheffield United and Burnley have kind of had that comfort, and also in previous years when obviously the likes of Leicester and Southampton went up as well. Playing in a championship now against the top side just gets harder and harder, and it feels like if Norwich are to mount a real promotion race probably in the next 2 seasons, we've got to have players fit. It is so critically important, especially over a long season. So it's either Norwich get a much deeper squad, or we just try and work alone much better. But it just feels like if Norwich want to get to the Premier League, we're gonna have to try and manage these crises quite a bit more intelligently, because it starts to become quite a real concern.
Yeah, and I think obviously, Will, you compared sort of seasons gone by where we've had terrible crises. I always think back to 18-19, where we won the league for the first time under Farker, and I can't really remember any of those kind of star players kind of having a long-term injury. The only one was really kind of Kenny, who was out for most of the start of that season, but then came in later. But imagine if a Pookie or a Buendia or a then in form Hernandez had have got a long-term injury, we would have really been in trouble. And I don't know if it's necessarily a Norwich and a Torup problem. It feels like, feels like it's a problem with football generally at the moment. Like, you look at the injury list that Tottenham had about a month ago. You look at the injury list that United have got. It's almost like an entire 11 of players who are out injured. And again, like Will kind of alluded to, you could spend loads of money on a star player, and they could be, they could have one trip in training, and that's 9 million quid down the drain. But we do have a nice facility with lots of swimming pools and saunas and baths. So, maybe we just need to invest in, again, a few more plasters and a few more bits of paracetamol. But I guess one of the good things about the injury crisis, I guess good things, obviously it's a shame to see Mahovo out. I hope that he's not out for too much longer. But I think Chris Sani had a good game filling in at left back. But also, there was no George Long on the bench, which meant that our mate Vicente Reyes was in actually, the first team squad. So big up Vicente. Obviously, I think George Long got concussion because he took a ball to the head. I think the ball still went in. Love you, George. Hope you're okay, mate. But
Sorry, that's it. Mate, I think that's a straight reg, or at least a sin bin. I'm sorry. Play on.
Big up Vicente. Big up Vicente. He's our boy.
Yeah, lovely boy, Vicente. No, I'm very happy for him after of course speaking to him here on the channel. Was a lovely guy, and really well done to him for getting into the team. Of course, didn't end up playing because very rare the sub goalkeeper actually ends up coming on the pitch. But a nice moment for him to be involved in the Norwich City team for the first time since he joined the club. But anyway, getting back on track, and enough about people taking footballs to the head. We'll use our in-house representatives for the women and the academy sides now. We'll put their knowledge to really good use. So first up, Henry, just a bit of a women's team update over the last 7 days and what they've been up to. I understand they didn't play today, but what's been sort of going on in the world of Norwich City women over the last week?
Very good results, really. Like you said, they didn't play today, so and an extra opportunity just to recharge the batteries and get fully prepared for this run in. But I think since the new year, they've only dropped 2 points, which just shows you that you cannot sleep on this Norwich City side, and they know that they're good enough to win promotion, and that's exactly what they're trying to do, despite the poor start they had to this season. So very good performances from the side this season, and hopefully they can really kick on in the last few months of the season. I know they've only got 2 home games left. One of them is next weekend, and then they've got another home game the second weekend of April, I believe. So it's your opportunity. You've only got 2 more opportunities to get down to the nest and support the girls, but hopefully Norwich can get over the line, because they're without a doubt the form team in the league, and they definitely would deserve it if they do go up. So it will be a big ask due to the such disappointing results in the first half of the season. But if they can claw it back and turn it around, then it will definitely be a memorable end to the season. So fingers crossed they get it over the line and done, really.
Let's certainly hope so. Of course, just missed out last season and ended up only losing one game in the league. So good to hear that they're back on track and the promotion charge is still very much on and they will keep fighting. If anyone can get to the nest, do so, support them, and I'm sure they'll all very much appreciate it. But going over to the academy side and over to our correspondent Will here, I understand that they actually played at the same time as the first team on Saturday, which is perhaps a little bit bizarre. But with the academy sides, Will, what's been going on with them in the last week, and how are sort of the next generation of Norwich City players all getting on?
Yeah, it probably hasn't been a great week for both teams, really. Just quickly on their under-18s, they played against Leicester and Reading in the last two games. They got 1 point out of those two games, and I think if I was looking at that, I would probably expect more, probably maybe at least 3 or 4 points out of that. Obviously, they went 2-0 down to Leicester quite reasonably early on, but they managed to claw it back with two lovely free kick goals, and then obviously against Reading yesterday, they had quite a decent first half, dominated possession, playing really well, but quite a few poor moments and goals conceded, really, especially on the counter-attack and stuff like that. So that wasn't ideal, but I will give you some sorts of facts whilst I'm here. There's a player called Finn Oligbu. He has scored 4 direct free kicks for the team this season, and they've all been near post free kicks as well. So very, very impressive. I think he's definitely trying to capitalise probably on the height of the goalkeepers at that level, but still very, very impressive nonetheless. And the right back is in the top 3 for most goals scored this season. So he's got 5 goals now, and he's had quite a good season overall as well. So that's encouraging. And obviously the under-21s as well. They lost to Leeds last week in quite a annoying manner, to be honest. They pretty much in control for large portions of the game. And obviously Lewis Shipley got a red card, which was probably fair enough, actually. It wasn't a great challenge, to be honest. And then obviously Leeds kind of fed off that and got some momentum into the game, and Norwich couldn't really withstand the pressure. They got close, but unfortunately they conceded very, very late on. But Dan Barnum made an absolutely fantastic save, probably about 2 minutes before that goal went in as well. So that's encouraging. Good to see him backing around it and trying to do well for himself as well. But quite a poor week, to be honest. The under-21s play again tomorrow on Monday, obviously as of recording as well. So they've got Blackburn away, which is it's a game where they're going to try and have to pick up points, because they're starting to become quite a points gap now between the top 16 qualification places and where Norwich are. Norwich currently sit, I think, in 21st place as well. So it's a very, very difficult task now for Norwich, but hopefully they can get through. Because that is the only competition they're pretty much now in, actually, because obviously they got knocked out of the Premier League Cup and as well as that the International Cup as well. So isn't ideal for the under-21s right now, but they've got some nice games to come against the likes of Chelsea and also a game against Arsenal to come as well, obviously in PL2 as well. So that'll probably be played at Carrow Road unless the pitch gets quite muddy and quite crap. So, but hopefully that manages to not be the case, and Norwich can hopefully pick up some vital points across both teams.
I'll be very surprised if the Carrow Road pitch ended up battered up. I think it can probably hold up okay, but let's hope.
You say that, but annoyingly, the Chelsea game has got moved to the training ground due to the pitch and just due to I think the general condition of the pitch. So that's quite interesting, to be honest. So yeah, it's kind of crazy, but yeah.
That is actually quite interesting. A professional standard pitch, which costs hundreds of thousands of pounds, ended up can't be used. But this an interesting one. But we'll see on that. Maybe the academy can get some more games at Carrow Road that they can play, and then they've also got the Norfolk Senior Cup final to look forward to. They'll be playing Wroxham in that one, so that's the Will Grant derby, I believe. But
buzzing for that.
Yeah,
Oxford versus Norwich. Absolutely love it. Like, that is what dreams are made of, especially a nice competitive fixture as well in the cup. Life is peaked.
It's quite funny, actually, that a quick fire hot take from a couple of weeks ago. I'm pretty sure Jack asked if there was an FA Cup final between Norwich and Wroxham, who do you support? It's only fitting they play each other in the Senior Cup final. So I guess we bring that question back quickly just for you, Will. Norwich Academy against Wroxham's first team, Norfolk Senior Cup final, Carrow Road. Who do you support?
Good question. Well, the thing is, in life, I've got a motto of supporting my local. But covering the under-18s this year, and obviously the under-21s. The under-18s have played quite a very, very young, youthful squad, and I think it'd be absolutely great if, because the majority of the squad is 16, 17-year-olds, and I think if they manage to win it, then I think that'd be absolutely lovely to see. So I'm going to back Norwich, but I have absolutely done myself in there because I'm all about supporting my local, but I might just edge Norwich.
No, you know what? It's fair enough. When he covers them and writes about them all the time, and he's the MFW correspondent for it, I think we can let him off with that one. So,
and that is absolutely the correct response as well. Any other response would have been woke nonsense.
Johannes, the woke nonsense. Johannes is back. That gets its weekly showing.
But what I will say is I think Jordan Southgate has now actually got Wroxham out of the relegation zone. So I think he's cooking right now. I think they beat Sporting Bengal yesterday as well. So
they did, yes.
So Wroxham, they're cooking, and the local town of Wroxham is flourishing, and that is all we care about in life.
Yeah, I'll tell you what as well. It's funny, we mentioned that the Dereham semi-final. I found it amazing. Or even all my mates from uni found it amazing seeing the live blog tweet of Grant Holt tries to chip Ruddy in goal. I just think that had everyone looking at it thinking, hang on, well that can't be right. Holt chips Ruddy. That can't be right. I think that sent Norfolk into meltdown. I think what's amazing is the fact Grant Holt, what started his career must have been 1995, I want to say. I've probably got that wrong. But he starts his career there. He's now 43 years of age, and he's playing against John Ruddy's son. What's going on, there? What's happened? The football has gone mad. And I'll tell you who else went mad. That Dereham Town admin on Twitter.
He wasn't happy, was he? He was not happy.
That was Norfolk at its brilliant best. That was just fantastic. That genuinely made some fantastic Tuesday night reading. That was great fun.
If we're talking about Twitter, not necessarily meltdowns, but Twitter, or should we say X now, just admins having a laugh. Go onto the Downham Town Twitter. Their admin is hilarious. He absolutely loves it, and cannot recommend them enough. That's Downham Town. The admin there. Don't know what he's paid, but he's absolutely relishing being in that position.
I tell you, I would be amazed if he was paid, but if he is, fair enough, fair play to him. But we quickly mentioned there of an old quick-fire hot take. Let's bring you some new, just before we leave you all to ponder how on earth we went from the Blackburn away game to cockerels the size of donkeys. Maybe that's another Jack Wright question he's got lined up of what church symbol is the same height as something. I don't know. I don't know what he gets up to in his spare time, but let's have your quick fire hot takes for the week, Jack. If you're new around here, Jack brings us 5 questions every single week. We have to answer them as quickly as possible, and it usually leads to some funny stuff he may put on his Twitter account. But anyway, I'll let you take over, and I'll just keep my mouth shut.
Right. No more cockerels on the top of cathedrals. I'll bring back an old classic. Who was your anti-man of the match against Blackburn?
Jakob Sorensen.
I'm going with the referee. How he didn't send off another Blackburn player for that elbow on Angus Gunn is absolutely ridiculous. That was the most blatant red card I've ever seen. And I'll tell you what, if the FA do not give him retrospective action, then they must clearly have a vendetta against Norwich.
Well, ironically, if Crnac didn't score, I would have probably said him because I thought he was quite poor. But I can't say Crnac after his fantastic goal. But I'm going to go for Nunes. I thought he was well off it. I just thought his general play was so sloppy, and I just felt like that link between midfield and attack just wasn't there. And normally he's one to kind of provide that, but he just didn't really seem to get going for him at all.
I mean, Angus Gunn probably for conceding the only shot that he had. I don't think Josh Sargent had a chance or really got into the game either. I think that would. I'll go for Sargent mostly because that's a really controversial pick. But what I must say is that I think Cordoba had another brilliant game.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
That's 2 games in a row where he's been very impressive. And I think it's now a question of whether Doyle goes straight back into that defence. But yes, that's probably one for us to ponder next week. Okay, next one. Do fans of top 6 clubs have worse ball knowledge than supporters of teams in lower leagues like Norwich?
Most definitely. Most definitely. They've never been to a stadium in their life.
Absolutely, 100%. Take teams like Manchester United or Arsenal, for example. If they don't sign someone for £100 million, they'll bring the signs out saying XYZ, get out, you're killing our club. When in fact you've had lower league clubs who have either gone on the verge of going out of business or have gone out of business, which is not only really insensitive, it's just plain wrong. So most definitely.
Yeah, full house.
No notes from Will. Well, I agree. It's full house for me. I think I have a lot of friends who support, Arsenal and Manchester United, and they try and have really insightful conversations with me about Europe and how terrible United are at the moment. But I think the thing is that fans of lower league teams also watch like those matches as well as all of the championship matches and probably all the lower league matches as well. If I were to bump into someone in a pub or a nightclub who was a Crewe Alexandra or a Leyton Orient fan, I would have far more of an interesting conversation with them about football generally than, I support Real Madrid because I like Jude Bellingham. Or it's like people who like, I used to support Chelsea, but now I support Manchester City. And it's just like, you can't swap. That's
or the worst one. The worst one is when they go, who do you support? I support Norwich. Yeah, but who are your Premier League team? Well, I don't have a Premier League team. I support Norwich. That's how it should be. You support one team. Oh, no. Well, who do you like in the Premier League then? Well, that's the same question, really. Like, I don't really like or dislike anyone in the Premier League. Like, my team is Norwich. So, other than the obvious one, obviously, in the Premier League.
Go on, Will.
Sorry, Henry, to interrupt, but I tell you what is really Tim Pot. When people go to me, they go, and this actually does happen, by the way. When people go to me, well, I want Norwich and Ipswich to, and yes, they go, I want Norwich and Ipswich to do well because so the county can do well, and that to me is just awful. That is proper woke for me. I'm not having that. Just get it up. I mean, you have to, surely.
Get the image up, run it, reload it.
There
you go.
There you go. Well, that's 4 out of 4 for that one. Okay, question 3. Which single position has been Norwich's Achilles heel the most in its recent history? As in, which area of the pitch have we just never managed to fully sort and has constantly been the biggest problem for us?
I would say that sort of number 6 role, a proper defensive midfielder. Even with Jacob Wright here now, we've just not addressed it in years. We still have not replaced Alexander Tete or Oliver Skipp. It's been 4 years. We're crying for it.
For me, if we're basing it off this season, goalkeeper, I think Angus Gunn has been very subpar. George Long, we all know how poor he's been. Not to get into it again because the lad has a family, and I don't think some of the criticism that he's been given this season is very fair. Especially, I think it's got very personal. So, but he hasn't necessarily covered himself in glory. But I think Angus Gunn, if his name was George Long, he'd just be getting exactly the same criticism. Some of the mistakes he's made have been very poor and have cost us points as well. So, for me, this season, it would have to be in goal.
Yeah, I would probably agree with Freddie and say CDM, but I think quite an underrated one, probably before this season actually, was the left centre half role. Like I know Ben Gibson was good, and actually I probably would say last season he was probably one of our better defenders as such. But I just think that profile of player who is left-footed and has got very, very good athleticism and recovery pace, like Cordoba has actually. I would definitely say that before obviously this season kicked off, but. Yeah, I think CDM and that less than half position probably were my main two kind of worries really about our downfall as such.
Yeah, I agree. I think centre back. I think you look at who the great players have been over the last couple of decades. You can think of great strikers. You can think of great wingers. You can think of great midfielders. You can think of great goalkeepers. But can you think of fantastic, wonderful, amazing, legendary centre backs? I mean, Zimmerman,
More cult
Godfrey,
hero, isn't he?
like cult heroes, but like outstanding, as in like the best player on the pitch. I think we obviously signed Closer for a lot of money, and then I think we went years without actually spending money on a centre back. Again, I think we're not going to have Doyle next season, and if Duffy, what is he, 33, 34, he's probably not going to be at his best next season. You're now looking at a scenario where the centre back position is again an area of concern. So I don't know, but I agree with the defensive midfield as well. I think completely agree. We haven't found our Teddy replacement. I can't remember if I've asked this one. Aside from them lot, who would you deem is our next biggest rival?
Well, we only hate Wolves and Ipswich, so it's Wolverhampton Wanderers.
I mean, for me, on a personal note, I know they're going well this season, and the rivalry sort of died down a bit. But Sheffield United, I just think, I personally, and this is just my opinion, think they're a bunch of thugs. So for me, it would be Sheffield United.
Yeah, I agree with Henry. I think the battles that we had probably over that 2-year period, probably in the Premier League and obviously 18-19, I think there was some great games. Obviously, I think Wilder kind of probably instigated it more, but I think that's probably a very, very wise shout. But maybe a little wild card one, but it always felt that like Norwich and Watford were kind of like twins in a way. They were literally always together in the league, and now we are as well, pretty much. Like it always feels like Norwich and Watford pretty much had like the same seasons as such. So that's like a little wild card one, but like it never really felt hostile as it. So I'd probably go for Sheffield United.
I think you got to throw Leeds in there potentially. The playoff loss, they've taken Farker. They're probably going to go up and be fantastic under him. Obviously, we've had a fantastic result at Elland Road in 18-19. And again, they're quite a colourful bunch of supporters. That's all. I won't go as far as Henry's nasty comment about Northerners. I love Sheffield. It's my favourite city in the north. I think. I don't know.
I agree. It's good to see. It's good to see. I agree.
Lovely. It's got roads and stuff.
They've got a good football club as well. We play at Hillsborough.
Henry
is fish. No, sorry, Henry is fishing there.
He is.
He's got his rod out, hasn't he? He's caught
a nibble.
And again, this final one, I can't remember if I've asked it before, but I'm going to ask it again, or it's going to be completely new. If we'd have kept Emi Buendia, would we have stayed up that season, 21-22?
No.
No.
No. I think there was a chance. Mate,
our defence was comically bad, and I could have used a swear word there, but luckily I refrained it in. But that midfield just got overrun too much. And we had a free back as well.
Could you imagine Emi Buendia playing Dean Smith ball as well?
The thing is, you talk about that midfield getting overrun. That midfield had new people in it because Emi Buendia was sold. Imagine if we had gone like another year of Tribal, Leitner, well, not Tetty because he retired, but imagine if we still were rocking up with them. There is not a chance if Buendia stayed, we would have stayed up. Not at all. I think under Daniel Farker, and even though he tried to switch his style of play that season anyway, I just think we were always doomed under him. I just don't think he had what it took at a Premier League level. And even if he still had Buendia to help him, I think it would have been a lost cause.
I disagree. I think we would have at least qualified for Europe.
I wish one day.
Yeah, no, maybe one day, but it's not going to be this day, and it won't be the next day either. But no, we'll wait and see on that front. Well, what do you all think? Do you think if Emi Buendia stayed, Norwich would have got European football? What's your favourite church artefact that's got a quirky fact about it? Do you like the fat cat and canary? Let us all know in the comments section down below. This has been episode 34 of the MFW podcast. I have been Freddie Humphrey Wakefield. They have been the excellent, as always, Jack Wright, Henry Miller, and Will Grant. Another big thank you to the Fat Cat and Canary for their sponsorship of the podcast. Do check them out if you get the time and you're in and around the Thorpe Road area of Norwich. It's goodbye for now, and we'll see you for either the next podcast on Spotify or the next video on the YouTube channel.